But speaking of foolishness, along with Mr. Steen, Mr. Owens, I can't get used to calling him Owens. Apparently, his Canadian cohort, Sami Zayn, is re-upping also. We haven't had specific, or have we had confirmation by now? I heard the report come out. I don't know if it was confirmed.
I think it's just a rumor as of right now, but I also think that we've seen in little bits the way WWE presents someone on TV when they think they got him re-signed and when they have no idea and when they don't care. And with Sami Zayn on SmackDown, which we'll talk briefly about shortly, that was a guy who's re-signing. That's the way I took it when I watched him on that show, and his best friend's about to re-sign, and I don't think those two will ever be apart. It's like a boy and his whoopee. They will always be together, those two.
A boy and his whoopee?
Whoopee. You never saw Mr. Mom, I assume. But there's nothing confirmed, but I'd be surprised if he went to AEW at this point.
Well, I am, and now, here's another side of the issue. The people who haven't had the chance to go to AEW as of yet, they're seeing, well, they're filling up over there. And maybe it might be better that I try to jack these guys for as much money as possible and stay here, because at least then I'd have the money. But there goes we heard that there was a no cut clause in Steen's contract, if that's what they're doing. And what happens then to prevent in 6 months when something else happens or they change their mind again? Oh, you know what? Buyer's remorse, guys. See you later. And then AEW is even more filled up. I can believe taking the money easily, especially that much money. But as we've said, and as I think Tony Khan has been quoted as saying, if you sign a contract with the WWE and there's no cut clause in it, then you're just signing a 3-month contract, right?
You know what? I understand why wrestlers have to do it. If you want to go to WWE, you have to play their game. I get it. But you could ask any lawyer who's ever looked at one of those contracts, and I have, and they'll tell you those contracts are not worth the paper they're written on. You'd have to fight them. You'd have to go to court and really fight them, but they're ridiculous contracts, and they can cut you whenever they have the whim. You're gone. And you have no recourse.
Whim cutting.
I guess so.
That's what they call it. So anyway, we've established we're back in a promotional war. They're trying to keep more attrition from taking place in the WWE. Tony Khan was smart enough not to pay $2 to $3 million a year for Kevin Steen. We don't know what's going on with Sami Zayn, but like you said, the Bobbsey twins will never leave each other. And again, it continues to get interesting. At any given point over the last 2 years, every 3 months, the WWE will either grab your bags and boot you out the door or offer you millions of dollars a year to stay. And it changes with the direction of the wind. I can't believe they gave Adam Cole any offer anywhere near that. And you can't mean to tell me that you think that Adam Cole didn't have more upside with his track record already in that company than Kevin Steen, who's been there for 6 years. And let's face it, it's still Kevin. And Zayn's more entertaining to me because he can talk his ass off. He was a mute luchador when I was booking him, despite my best efforts to get him to give it up. If I'd have heard promos like that, but anyway, nevertheless.
I was going to say, what about the other way around? If we go under the assumption that $2 to $3 million is top of the line for what Tony Khan wants to spend for any individual talent, and if you got that money, you'd be top of the card. So that's a main event guy. Is there anyone in WWE that it would be worth it for AEW to go after, knowing they have a full roster, knowing they have all these guys? I mean, I don't think a Sheamus helps AEW. No. Does an Edge help AEW?
Not at this point.
Who in WWE would help AEW, looking at what you just did the other way around?
Well, I need the WWE roster in front of me because, so many names running through my mind. But we had mentioned Steen and Zayn just because, they have friendly relations with a lot of the cosplayers on the card in AEW. I think, obviously, Charlotte. For the women's division, needs a lot of fucking help over there because that's one thing that the WWE still has is their top girls are better than anybody else's top girls. I'm trying to think of somebody else too.
Because Roman Reigns, more than likely, if you're going to want to get him, that's more than $3 million. And I'm not saying Tony wouldn't break that for somebody if it was the right thing.
Oh, yeah, well, and Reigns, I mean, that's almost an impossible thing because that would Vince would have to look at that almost like a Bret Hart situation in 1997. You wouldn't just be losing a guy off the roster, you'd be losing the guy off the roster. So I would think they would do anything to keep that from happening, which whenever Reigns' contract is up next, he probably ought to keep in mind.
I don't know. There aren't too many top guys there. I mean, I don't think Rollins would be a big difference maker. I mean, Cena would, but I don't know if that'll ever happen and what you'd actually be able to do with him. Brock.
No, Cena. Well, now we're just going crazy. They can't even get Cena to hardly show up for the WWE. And The Rock, fuck, that's why I'm saying another part of this was talent in the wrestling industry is shorter than it's ever been at the top of the card, which is why that some guys who could have never smelled a contract this size are now being offered it because who else you got? And who knows what will happen in 3 months when they decide that they're going to fucking fire 60 more people.